Hello guys, welcome to our sixth tutorials of this HTML crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at forms. So to get started, let's just find our file. And now if this is your first time, make sure you open a new text editor. But for now, I'm just going to open mine. And then like I told you, we are only going to use Notepad since I don't want to make anything complicated. Since I assume this is you are just a beginner, so we are using Notepad, and I also want to open my file in my browser, which is Google Chrome. So let's just align this. This is my browser, Google Chrome, and then this is my HTML, my text editor. This is my HTML structure. So whenever we are working with forms in HTML, we got a form tag, and to do that we just open it up and then close it. A form tag, open and close it, and then inside here we can have something like let's say a label. I'm just going to show you everything that you can include in a form. So we can start with a label, open and then close it. Let's say here you want to put a name, and then you can put an input. You can put an input, so the type with an input, you can put an attribute of type which is a text since you want to, and then the value, there's also a value where you can get you can leave it empty if you want, and then there is a name attribute which can be, let's say, first name. So what this means is this input tag, you want the type to be text since you want people to be able to write in their name. The value, you can give it whatever value you want, like which can be empty, but then there is a name. This name, I gave it first name. So what this means is when the user submit the form to our PHP, let's say our PHP file, the form will get the information that is associated with this name. So let's just save this, and then or you can come up here and save, or Control S to save, and then refresh. As you can see, we have our input there. You can type in whatever your name there. You can type it whatever name you want there, which is like Ambrosius, you can be able to type in. And then in HTML, there is also an attribute which is called placeholder. A placeholder where you can add text like input your first name. And what will this do is just Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see in our input box here, there is now a text which is showing you that in this you have to input your first name, and once you click on it and start writing your name, all the texts are disappearing. But once you delete, it will show you that here you have to input your name. So let's just do another one. We can just copy this and then paste it down there. Copy it and paste it down there, and then this will be, let's say, surname. So the type will still be text, and then the name you want to be surname. You don't want to, and then the placeholder, in the placeholder you want to input your surname. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, we got now a second input where you will input your surname. And to just, if you want to bring it down, you can use CSS for that, but I told you we're not going to use any CSS, it's just HTML, so you can use a break tag. A break tag here at the end of this input. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, it's now down. Let's just add another break tag, BR tag. Control S to save, or come up here to save and then refresh. It's now a bit down. So now you can see there is here where you can input your name and then where you can input your surname. Then once you remove, it's showing you that this is where you input your surname. So yeah, let's move on to, let's say we have at input, we want them to be able to input their email. So let's just create an input for that. Label, open, and then make sure you close it. And then we have email. The label, we want it to be email. And then let's make an input button, an input space, input, close it off. Then we want the type we want it to be email. It's no more a text, we want it to be an email. And then the name, we can give it an email. And then you can add a placeholder which say input your email. Control S to save, or come up here to save and then refresh. As you can see, let's just move it down. Let's just put a break tag, a BR tag to BL. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, you now got your email. If you try to, it will show you that this is your email. If you try to insert like an email or some text which are not emails, it will show you that no, in here you're supposed to only enter emails. So, and then there's also a type which is for numbers. And then to do that, you can just, let's just add our BL tag. Again, our BL tag. And then you can add our label, open and then close it. And then this is, let's say, our phone. We want them to enter their phone number. So we come with an input. We want the type, we want it to only be numbers, number. And then we want the name, it can be phone. And then the placeholder, you can add a placeholder if you want to, which input your number. Control S to save, or come up here to save and then refresh. As you can see, you got now here. What if you try to add text, nothing, it's going through. I'm typing, I'm clicking on my keyboard, it's nothing showing, but the moment I click on number, it's showing you there. There's also, you can also see that there is this up and down arrow here, so you can click on that and then it will start counting up, or click on that and then it will start counting down. So that's how you create an input number space. And then there is also a select. Let's just create that. We can if you come up with a select, we can create a select, open and then close it. Select, open and then close it. And inside our select, let's just say we want to add a label. Let's just add our break tag again here before we forget. Our BL, Control S to save, and then let's add a label. Open and close it, and then let's say we want them to choose their favorite month. Let's say their favorite month. So we have a select, and then inside our select here, let's put options. There's an option tag, option, open, and then you close it. Option, open, and then close it. As we can realize, our input doesn't have a closing tag, it's a safe close tag, and then but then our option got a closing tag. So in here, let's say we can put January. So to go fast, let's just copy this and then paste it down. And just align this, paste it. To align, you just press tab on your keyboard. To align everything, just press tab on your keyboard. So that's like January. Let's make this Feb. Let's make this March. Let's make this April, and then let's make this May. Control S to save, or come up here to save, and then the refresh. As you can see, there is favorite month, and then there is this. If you click on this arrow here, is option. You can click on March if you want, you can click on April, you can click on May, January. So you can select whatever month you want. Whatever month you want. Whatever month you want. So, and then there is also a select where you can be able to pick, where you can be able to create check boxes for people to click on them, to choose them. And to come up with a checkbox, let's just add our BL tag, 1, 2 of them, and then let's add, you can create a checkbox. Let's just create a div. I like to create divs. You don't really need to create a div, but for you to make it easier for you to add some styling when you are going to be dealing with CSS, you can like create a div for it, but you don't really have to. And then in here, let's just add a label. And then let's say check or choose. Let's say choose your fave, or let's say your fave game, your fave games. So you add a BL tag there, or small caps, remember, BL tag there. And then down here, you just want to add a label. Open and close it. And then in here, you want to, let's say, FIFA. And then you want to add an input. Open, and then the type, you want to make it a checkbox. It's not more a text or number or email, it's a checkbox. And then the name, can give it like let's say FIFA. So that's that, and then add a BL tag. Control S to save, excuse me, Control S to save, or come up here and save and then refresh. As you can see, you got your choose. You can be able, let's say you have a lot, so to go fast, let's just copy this. Just want to copy this and then paste it down here. Copy down here. So in here we have FIFA. Let's say we have ESP. We have the name here should be ESP, and then we got let's say Need for Speed, and then Need for Speed. So you Control S to save, come up your save and then refresh. As you can see, you got your 3 games here, so you can be able to tick all of them. Can be able to tick all of them. So that's how you create a checkbox. Only remember that type should always be a text box. And then we got also, let's say we only want people to be able to only choose one and not all of them. So with that we create a radio inputs. To do that, let's say we have let's say we have a div. Let's create a div, and then in this div we want to create, let's import a label, like for gender label. Open and close it. So let's say gender. Once we add the BL tag there, let's just add the label. Open and then close it. We want this to be male, so let's add our input. And then we want the type. We want to make it radio, and then you can give it a name, which is gender. Name gender. So the radio, it's the type is radio. So now let's just copy this and then paste it down here just to go fast. And then with this we can make it female. The radio, its type, the type should remain radio, and then the name should be the same name as gender. And then to come here to make it politically correct, we just add other there, and then the type is radio. Let's just add the value. You can add a value to be, this is for male, and then the value, this is for female, and then the value, this is for other. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, let's just bring this down. Let's just put a break tag here, a BL2 BL tag, so we can break it down. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, now you got your gender, so a person can click on male or female or other. They can't tick all like these ones where you can tick both. You can only choose. If you are male, you can tick on male. If you are female, you can click on female. If you are other, you can click on other. So that's how you create a radio checkbox, a radio box. You make sure you give it the type as a radio, and the name should always be the same for every button that you want it to be a radio, should be the same. So yeah, that's how you create your radio button. And then the last thing we want to look at is, let's say our month, our input month. Let's say you want to choose the date. You can, to do that, you can create actually a label let's just add a BL tag here. You can actually create a label, open and then close it. A label, let's say this is for the date. So that tag, let's just align this here. Align the input, the type should be date, and then the name can be whatever, can be date. So you come Control S to save and come up here and refresh. As you can see, let's just put a breakdown here so that you can see it perfect. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, you got your date here. And then here there's a calendar here. If you click on it, it's giving you a calendar there. So that's how you create a date input. And then we have the last thing, or the second last thing we are going to look at, is our message box or our text area where a person can write the message. So to do that, we create, let's just add our BL tag. We can create a label. A label. Let's close it off. A label, and then this is message, and then in HTML there is a text area tag, text area tag, open and then close it. Text area tag, open and close it. And then the name, it should be a message, the type, Control S to save. As you can see, you got your text area. Let's just put a break tag here, way to look better. Control S to save, and then refresh. As you can see, you got your text area there. You can type in. You can also add a placeholder on that. A placeholder, remember we talk about placeholder. You can add info, write message. Control S to save and then refresh. So you can see it's right message. And then the difference between an input and a text holder, you can actually be able to adjust it. Here, if you come in the bottom light corner there, you can be able to adjust your text area once, but then this input one you can't adjust it. So, and then the last thing we want to look at, it's a button. So you can actually create an input, and the type should be a submit. The name should also be a submit, and then the value of our button should be submit. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, you got your button here. Let's just move it down. Let's put a BL tag here so that you can see it. To BL tag, Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, you got your button here. You got your button here. So now I want us to look at, let's say you want the user not to submit an empty form. You want them to actually fill in all this space and not submit an empty form, because if you click on this, you can submit even if it's empty. So in HTML there is a attribute for that. You can actually come to your label, your name label, your first one here. Let's say you want them to input this, you don't want this to be submitted empty. You can add a required attribute there, a required. So even if you will refresh, Control else and then refresh, so even if the person fill in this and all this and all that, but then they didn't fill this first part in, even if they try to submit, there's an notification showing them like, though this field you have to fill it in, submit, fill, please fill out this field. So this field is required. So sometimes you don't want user to submit empty form, so always remember to add a required attribute to whatever you don't want it to be submitted empty. So required, add a required attribute there. You can actually add it to whatever you want there. You can even add it on here, a required, just required. And then that about the form, and then we come into our opening tag here. I want us to look at two things. The first thing that we want to look at is our action, and then the second thing is our method. So you can see it's in our first form opening tag there. The action, this will represent, let's say we have maybe a PHP file that we created. So when the user submit our form, it will be sent to our external PHP file where it will get all those information. Let's say we have a PHP file called form handler.php. So once the user submit our form will be sent to our form header PHP file and get these informations, the name here, and then the surname, and then everything here will be sent to our PHP file. And then we get a method. The method, there are two methods, which can be a post. With a post, once the user submit the form, it will post it to our PHP file and nothing will. This is the most secure method. And then there is a get. As you can see, they are all in caps. With the get, if the user submit the form, please fill out this it's an email, so let's just say .gmail.com. okay, .gmail.com. the user submit this, it's being sent to our PHP file. But as you can see, if you look into our URL here, our information that we add into our form, it's showing into our URL here, up here. So this is not secure. Let's say if you are dealing with personal information and password, you don't want, once the user submit them, you don't want it to be showing up in your URL. You want them to be hidden. So if you want them to be hidden, you have to use get a post, which is the most secure one whenever you are dealing with personal information. So save, and then let's just say this, you fill it in that, and then you submit. As you can see, it's not showing up on our URL, it's just showing that our form has been submitted to our PHP file. So yeah, that's the difference between the post and the get. So I will advise you to always use a post whenever you are dealing with personal information, or like maybe like password, personal information like passwords and personal like numbers and all that. But you can use a get whenever you can dealing with, let's say, search buttons and all that. So yeah, that's the difference. And yeah, that's everything that you need to know whenever you are dealing with forms. I believe I covered everything. This video actually turned out to be longer than I expected, since I wanted to go through everything. I hope you find this video helpful. I hope you enjoy it, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment down below, and if this is your first time, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, that was it for this tutorial. I will see you guys in the next video. I'm out.